In this video, we will see what a checkout is and how it works. What is a checkout? A checkout is the final part of an e-commerce website that enables online transactions, and it is fundamentally the part that allows the customer to purchase the products they have previously added to the cart or that they intend to buy. So there will be a section where they will enter their personal information, billing details, yitten, and shipping information if it is a physical product. And then at the end, there will be the option to access the payment methods, such as, for example, PayPal, Stripe for credit card payments, etc. Let's go into detail. To create or manage checkouts, you need to go to the website and then to the checkout section. Here we can see that Framework360 at the time of setting up the environment has already created a default checkout called CASA. By doing so, we would only need to modify it if necessary. And this checkout will already allow our customers to purchase our physical or digital products. As we can see, the checkout is composed of several sections. In the first section, there is the name. Clearly, we can give it a name of our choice. In this case, we have called it CASA, but it could easily be named checkout, for the purchase page of a specific product, for example, if we wanted to divide the checkouts based on the sections of our website. To keep things simple in this tutorial, we will see how to manage the default CASA checkout created by Framework360. Besides the name of the checkout, on the right, we can also see the minimum amount. The minimum amount is usually left blank because it is used to set a hard minimum amount that the customer must have in their cart to proceed with the payment. If we set, for example, 100 euros, this checkout will only allow payment for those who have at least 100 euros worth of products in their cart. Let's leave it blank for any generic e-commerce. Below, we can see that there is a small legend. The legend states that where we find the padlock, the field is set as mandatory. If instead we click on the padlock and it turns green, then the field will be optional. This means that we can decide whether our customer must necessarily fill in, for example, the field name with their own name, or perhaps make the surname optional if we want the customer to be able to skip it without filling it in. As we can see, the fields to be displayed are indeed the second section we see in any checkout. Each Framework360 checkout is divided into different sections that, as the customer fills them out, the next one opens. Let's see, for example, customer data. It will be the first section with the email fields, which is mandatory. So this, being a key identifier of the account, cannot be made optional, nor can it be disabled. Then there will be a request for the first name, last name, and phone number. This is usually necessary. In case there is any issue with the courier, for example, the customer's phone number is necessary. It can also be made optional, as we saw from the legend earlier. Moving forward, we can see that there is a buttons section within the buttons section. We can decide whether to allow the customer not to register. On the website, in fact, in the checkout process, which we will see later in this tutorial, if the option is enabled, it continues. Without registering, the customer will have the option to proceed with the purchase as a guest or necessarily register by setting a password. Among the settings, in fact, we see that we can decide if there is the possibility of login or registration. In this case, it is enabled. If this option is enabled, the checkout will ask, once the email is entered by the customer, to log in, if that email is already registered in the system, or to register if the email is not yet registered in the system as a profile. The profiles are always found, let's remember, in the customer module. We will see this later, the option to generate credentials automatically. This option allows for credentials to be generated automatically and sent automatically to the customer's email entered during the checkout process. Thus, the customer will be able to later access the customer area of the website by entering their email and the password that was sent to them via email. We recommend keeping it enabled if we want to avoid the customer having to enter passwords, which they might then forget. Subsequently, there is always the option in all sections to insert a personalized message. If this option is enabled, we can insert a label, which might be a notice, such as, for example, you will receive the password to access your account via email. For example, this could be a message that we can provide already in the first step, so that the customer knows that once they proceed with the checkout, they will receive the password via email to then access the login. The second section allows the customer to enter their details for issuing an invoice or a fiscal receipt in case they are an individual, etc. We can see that if we have a store, we might need the first name, last name, billing contact, mobile phone, address. For example, we can enable it, make it mandatory. the state, which in this case will be pre-selected as Italy if the customer is from Italy, the province, the city. All of these are mandatory, but we can always decide to make them optional. The postal code, the company name, and the VAT number. If we don't know whether the customer has a VAT number or not, it's advisable to leave them optional. And also the tax code. So if our customer purchasing a product on our e-commerce site is an individual, they can fill in the tax code to allow us to issue an invoice. The PEC box, in the case of electronic invoicing, is also the interchange code and the possibility to request an invoice by enabling a CE. Let's move on. Next, we can always see that there is the possibility to insert a personalized message as before. In this case, let's leave it unchecked. Then we can see the section for shipping information, which, if enabled, will allow us to ask the customer to enter the details where they want. Indeed, for the package to be shipped, because they might be different from the billing information. Perhaps the customer may want an invoice addressed to their company, but then wants to receive the shipment at home. In fact, here automatically, by selecting this checkbox, the shipping information section will take all the data entered from the billing information. Then, if the customer wants to change it, they can still do so. Moving forward, there will be the option to select the quantities of products added to the cart. In this case, let's leave it unselected. There will be the option to enter a shipping method. To manage the shipping methods, we just need to go under Settings, Sales, and then Shipping. Let's open it in another tab. We can see that we have already created one. Called Free Shipping. By clicking on Add, there will be all the settings we can enter for our shipping method. I recommend watching the dedicated tutorial. Moving forward, we can see that there is the option, of course, to choose the payment method. For example, PayPal, Stripe, with credit cards, etc. To manage the available payment methods, you always need to go under Settings, Sales, and then we find Payments. We can see that among the available payment methods, we can include physical payments if we want to use Framework360 as a cash register. Or there are web payments. For example, we can activate bank transfer by entering our company's bank account details. We could allow the customer to pay via bank transfer, as it is not an automatic payment method on the platform. Since the customer has to go to their online banking and manually make the transfer, we always recommend, unless absolutely necessary, using other automatic payment methods. By doing so, Framework360 will understand that the payment has been made and can automatically mark the order as paid and completed. And indeed, it will allow the company to understand that an order is awaiting shipment. Moving forward, the same principle applies to PostePay. Here too, we can enter the cardholder's name and card number if we want to allow customers to make a PostPay top-up. However, the PostPay top-up will always be manual from the post office, so the principle is the same as the bank transfer. Moving forward, we will have now the option to activate, for example, Cash on Delivery. Cash on Delivery allows payment upon delivery, so we will have the option to apply an additional cost, for example, of €2. If our courier indeed charges a cost of €2 for cash on delivery. And subsequently, we find the payment method PayPal, Nexi, GoCardless, Book, and Stripe. PayPal is a very popular payment method. To enable it, we just need to enter our PayPal email. Moving forward, there is the option to clearly enter the Nexi payment method with the alias and secret key, then GoCardless. It is a very interesting payment method as it allows for, let's say, a kind of bank transfer, but through direct debit from the bank account. So, once the customer enters their IBAN, it will automatically. The GoCardless system will take the money from the customer's bank account via direct debit, SEPA, and clearly asking for authorization, then it will send them to our business bank account. Moving forward, in the end, there will be Stripe, which is one of the most widespread payment methods for paying with credit cards, including postpay, prepaid, any type of card. In this case, we only enable PayPal to simplify the tutorial. We return to the checkout and see that after the payment method, there will be the possibility to view an order summary where the customer will see precisely the summary of everything they have done and all the data entered. They will see their cart, therefore the products they are buying. They will see their own data, billing information, and shipping information. And the order notes, if indeed we have made it available. Moving forward, there will always be the possibility to enter a personalized message in the step. These indeed, as we see, are all steps. There's the first step, as we saw, which is customer data, this one here. Then there's the step for billing information, shipping information, selection of quantities if enabled, shipping, methods, payment, and order summary. At the end of the checkout, we can decide which payment methods to make available for this checkout. Moving forward in the tabs, we can see that there is the possibility to manage the cart. This is very important to manage correctly, as the products that the customer will want to buy will be taken, either from the session. If it is an e-commerce website, practically the e-commerce website with the classic Add to Cart button will place the products that the customer wants to buy into a session, a sort of container that will then bring everything to the checkout. Otherwise, we can manually select which products to make purchasable with this checkout. In practice, once the customer accesses the checkout we are managing, they will be able to purchase the products that we have decided. They can buy, in this case, for example, we can put these Munipus products in the cart for a total of 73 euros. In the last step, the cross-sell allows recommending products to the customer who is proceeding to checkout with items already in the cart. It allows recommending indeed other products related to those the customer wants to purchase to enable cross-selling. Clearly, e-commerce functionalities are needed, and for each product, we need to link the related products we want to recommend. At that point, during the payment initiation process, these products that we decide on will also be recommended. The principle is the same. Here we can decide, for example, which products to display, how many related products we want to show before the customer pays, and where to source them from. In fact, the origin is the cart. We can decide whether to source them from e-commerce products. But of course, we must have the e-commerce plugin installed by going under plugin customization. We need to search for e-commerce, install it, and then the e-commerce will open for us. Here we should enter all our products. And basically, installing the e-commerce plugin is useful to, let's say, make everything broader and more manageable. It's not necessary, but if we want to sell a few products, in fact, to sell a few products, we can also choose not to install the e-commerce plugin and add our products directly in the tiet in checkout we are managing. By clicking manually select in the cart, in fact, as we saw before, if the customer reaches the checkout, they will be able to buy the products we have entered here. For example, if we want to add new ones, we can click on the new product, and here we can, for instance, enter a product, let's say, a price of 10 euros. For example, with the default tax. Taxes are always managed within settings, sales, taxes. Here we have entered, for example, VAT with a rate of 22%. Okay? We have entered our demo product at the price of 10 euros with the default tax. We can add an SKU code, an EN code. We can decide if this product is a subscription or if this product contains other items. Basically, if this product is a package, we don't need to do anything else. Let's go back to the cross-sell tab as we saw before. The same principle applies to cart origin. If we inherit from products in the cart, we will need to clearly enter them into our e-commerce plugin that will manage all our products. In the Related Items tab here, we could insert other products that are always included in the e-commerce, selecting them from the search to then have them recommended at checkout as cross-sell. Otherwise, by clicking Select manually, we could go down and insert, as we saw before, other related products that will be recommended at checkout. We remove cross-sell ability. In this case, we don't need it. Okay, let's save our checkout. We will have our products. We will have our fields in our sections that will be asked before payment. Now we just need to insert the checkout, as always, within the page of our website. Let's go inside Site, Web, and Pages, create a dedicated page. Let's call it, for example, Checkout Example Page. A URL will be generated, accessible. Click Add, a row, and then search for Checkout and go to Payments. Form, Checkout. Drag our checkout form and then select. Using the Select Checkout button, select the checkout we previously managed. As we can see, a preview will be displayed. Save the page, go back, click on View, and we will see that our checkout has been correctly inserted into the page we just created. As we saw before, let's go back into the checkout module and see what the various sections correspond to. The first section is customer data. Indeed, it asks for customer data. The email will be mandatory. We can enter, for example, our first name, last name, put test, and the phone number. We see that we have decided to ask the customer for their first name, last name, and phone number as mandatory. In fact, if we do not enter the phone number and click on continue, it will ask us for the mandatory phone number. If we instead remove the mandatory phone number and reload the page, the checkout will show that the phone number is optional and will allow you to proceed. After entering the first name and last name, we set it back to mandatory, save, reload the page, and continue. Luca, test. Okay, let's click. On continue, the second billing data section will be shown. As we can see, in this section, we have decided to ask for the first name, last name, mobile phone, and address. We can also make the state mandatory, the postal code, the company name, starting from the tax code. Leave them optional. We also include the PEC box, the SD code, and make everything optional. Okay, let's reload the page. And we will see that the required fields are the first name with the mandatory asterisk, last name obviously taken from the first step. Mobile phone, address can be entered. The state with all the countries of the world. In this case, it preselects Italy because it recognizes that I am coming from Italy. Province, we can put Turin, city, Turin, postal code. And as we can see, the company name, VAT number, tax code, etc. will be optional. We can skip filling them out and click on continue. Here, the third step that we decided on will be requested, for example, In this case, the payment method is selected, but we can also choose to show the shipping details and the shipping method. Let's save and reload the page. Obviously, it will have brought me back to this step and will ask for the shipping details. And it says the address used for shipping is the same as the billing address. This is pre-selected because it often is the case. However, the customer can deselect it and enter the details where the package should be sent. Let's assume the address used is the same and click on Continue. Here, as we can see, the shipping method will be requested. It's all very versatile, so in this tutorial we show everything, but at one's own discretion, everyone can decide which sections to display here. We specifically want to show the selectable courier. In this case, we have only added free shipping, but if we go, as we saw in settings, sales, shipping, and add, for example, ESTA courier with a price of 12 euros. I'll give an example. We can decide, for example, for which countries this courier is available. Let's say, for example, only selected countries. Then we decide that it is available only in Italy. You can decide on a minimum spending amount to use this courier, usually used for free shipping, for example, on orders over 50 euros. Shipping is free. In fact, in free shipping, we have set this price to 0, and moving forward, other settings can be decided. In this case, we go back to setting it for the whole world like this. We are sure that the shipping is made visible. Let's move on, continue. In addition to free shipping, the SDA courier will now also be shown. Let's select it, click on continue. In the end, there will be the payment method. As we can see here, the payment is selected and the order notes are also available. In case the customer wants to specify some details, we can see them here. Optional order notes, pre-selected payment method, PayPal, because only this is currently entered. But if we also add Stripe, Next, etc., they will all be shown here by clicking on continue. We will arrive at the order summary, as we can see. Exactly, it's all as we set it up. Order summary with all our data, all our products. We see that coffee, Borboni, Gattopardo, Lavazza have been entered for a total of, as we remember, 73 euros, because we set it up that way in the cart. And then with the ESTA courier, it comes to 85 euros. Total payment method PayPal by clicking complete order. The customer will have the opportunity to pay for the order and then will be taken to their customer area. As we can see in this case, since we haven't actually paid with PayPal, the order is pending payment with all our data and the order we created as customers of our website. If we, as managers, want to manually change the status of the order because perhaps the customer pays by bank transfer, then we just need to go into the sales module and we will see that the sale has been created as pending payment, and then go to change the payment status to collected in and the status label as, for example, in processing or to be shipped depending on how it is in the company. We manage the orders, we can set it to processing, save, proceed. Without sending an email, it will not send an email to the customer, while proceed, sending an email, will notify the customer of the change in the order status. We can easily avoid sending an email. Returning to the summary, we can see that a sale has also occurred on the dashboard. And it shows, in fact, a graph that rises with 85 euros in revenue. By reloading the customer area page, in fact, we can see that the customer will see that their order is in processing, the payment method used, all their data, etc. This is within my orders indeed, where they can see the list of all orders. Here they will have the option to exit the customer area, but to re-enter, of course, we should allow them to see the login link. How do we do that? Let's go inside. Website, menu, or menu. In this case, it's what we have inserted in the header, and we look for example, the customer area. Here it is, area user, we bring it. Here we save. By reloading the page, we will see that the option for customers to enter their own area will have appeared. We click on user area. As we can see, here the customer will have the option to log in. If we want to manage the login page, it's very simple. We always need to go inside website, pages, and then look for login. Login customer. As we can see, we previously set it up this way, adding a link with the option to register. In case indeed a customer is not yet registered, we always find the registration page within the list of pages by searching under customer registration. Here it is. Okay. In this case, we want to enter our user area. Let's take a look at the emails that were received during the order by the customer thanks to our checkout settings. Here, we can see that the first email received by our customer will be the one with their login credentials. By entering the email and the generated password, we could access the user area and see exactly what we saw before. That is, with the order pending processing, since we forced it from the back office. Switch from pending payment to processing. Then there will be the possibility for the customer to confirm their email. This is very useful as many make mistakes during checkout, entering their email incorrectly and obviously not receiving communications. Therefore, a validation email has also been received. account when the customer receives it by clicking on Activate the account. The red label will disappear and the email will be confirmed. Framework360 also has a system that corrects customers' emails because we have noticed that they often enter them incorrectly. For example, many write Gmail, or not spelled Gmail, but Gmail, as I pronounce it, and the system automatically changes it to Gmail. This is one of the functions of Framework360 that makes selling online more effective. Now we have seen how to manually select products and add them to the checkout for the customer to purchase directly. This feature, as we mentioned, is useful in the case where we have a few products to sell, for example, as in this case 3 products, and we want to make it easy for them to be purchased directly through our website. In fact, here, for example, we could add a page to the menu. By clicking on the menu as before, the main menu, and we could, for example, insert the page of the example checkout that we created previously. By doing so, we could, for example, allow the customer who accesses this page to directly purchase our 3 products. But if we had a much more structured e-commerce website with, for example, dozens of references, how could we do it? Simply, as we saw before, by going to plugin customization, searching for e-commerce, and then installing it. Since we installed it before, we find it already installed in. We go to e-commerce. In fact, the section with the same name will open on the left in the sidebar, and then we will have new possibilities to add all our references, in the case, indeed, that we had a structured warehouse with many more products. In fact, by accessing products, we could create new ones, for example, product 1, and then add categories such as shoes, jackets, t-shirts, etc. In this case, we can, for example, create the category shoes by creating it. It will be selectable by reloading the page directly in our products. We could call this shoes. Nike, Air Force. Moving forward, we can enter a price, for example, 90 euros. We will have the possibility to manage the warehouse with minimum purchasable quantities. As we can see, there are many more settings. In this tutorial, we are not specifically talking about e-commerce, but we are discussing checkouts. So let's quickly add an image to this product. We save it and then proceed to insert it on the website. As we do, we go into Site, Web, Pages, as before. In this case, we create a new page, cart page, add a row, go to the e-commerce tab, and for example, we could drag the e-product list block. Here it will allow us to clearly manage our entire category. By clicking on display, for example, instead of grid, we set it to carousel and choose a 3-column view on mobile. 1, because mobile always displays the products one below the other. Here we can select, for example, a category shoes, the one we created earlier. We save, as we can see, Framework360 will have created the page at the dedicated URL, and by clicking on View, we will have our products. By clicking on View Product, a page created by default by the e-commerce plugin will open, which we can always modify within the website. And then searching, for example, the product title page, how can we see the label here? What type of e-commerce and commerce have been created? When we installed the e-commerce plugin, they did not exist before. Let's go inside the product title, and here we will have the possibility to manage our page that was created by default by the e-commerce plugin. Let's leave it standard, and we will see that there will be the possibility to select a quantity, and then to add to the cart. Where is the cart located? We haven't added it to the header yet. Let's go to the website, Global Blocks. Where is our header located? And here we just need to make it smaller. The menu, then add a new section, a new column with the cart that we can find under Payments, Cart. Okay, here we can, for example, give a name to the button and an icon. The icon is usually the cart. Here it is. Okay, once saved. We will see that by reloading the page, a cart will be added where the products the customer wants to purchase will appear. For example, by clicking a quantity of 3, adding to the cart here, we will see that the product has been added to the cart. Now, since in the tutorial we handled the checkout with products inserted directly into the checkout statically by selecting manually, now we will need to change the checkout to take from the session. And this is what I meant to explain earlier when I was talking about the container that collects the various products. In fact, by reloading the page, the cart will allow you to purchase the shoes that have been added. Indeed, we have added 3 pairs at 90 euros each, for a total of 270 euros. As we can see, the checkout also provides the option to enter a coupon. Coupons are always available under Settings, Sales, Coupons. Here we could enter a new coupon, for example, with a discount code 10 and apply a percentage to the product or the entire cart. It's better to apply it to the entire cart in this case. Of course, we refer to the tutorial dedicated to coupons to fully understand how the module works, but by applying a discount 10, here we reload the page, discount 10, applying, we will see that a discount of 27 euros has been applied to the entire cart. So, If we want to build a large e-commerce with many references, we just need to create our categories, insert them into the menu, add a cart, and then display our products. Thanks to the e-commerce plugin, everything will be very simple. By doing so, the customer, of course, always connecting the checkout. With the cart originating from the session, we will give our customers the opportunity to purchase our products by adding them directly to the cart.